Uganda's fiscal direction does align with the country's development needs. Now, joining me, I do have to my immediate left, Julius Mukunda, Executive Director, Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group, and they are focusing on accountability in public expenditure, the strong voice in service delivery, and of course, budget transparency is their core with citizen-centered spending at the heart. Good morning to you, Julius.
Morning.
How are you?
Fine, fine.
Just so we tick against citizen-centered spending, did the alternative budget, appease you on that end?
Yeah, we sort of speak the same language when it comes to how we should be allocating resources. I think for me is it's where should the money be going, and seeing that we have more people who are saying that we should be seeing some more of our resources really being spent on lives, improving the lives of our people, the quality of living. I mean, before I was coming here, when I was watching, on TV here, somebody was washing shoes, and that is his life of washing dirty shoes. And don't be surprised that the KCCA of that area will be able to say, please, if you sit here, you start paying money for this particular kind of service. So if you have that kind of community, how do you want really the budget to reflect into their needs to ensure that at least they can shift to a better income generating activity? Mm-hmm. And that's why for us we say, yes, PDM really, if we could tune it, it could really be able to help those people. Washing shoes shouldn't be a problem, but actually you can wash it using machines. You can wash it with protective gear, because it's a service that is needed anyway, because our roads are not tarmacked and all of that. So that is the spirit that you want to see, how you put a human face to the money that we collect, but also the money that we spend as a nation. I want to see, today morning I was coming very early in the morning and I saw really children, and it was raining, walking long distances, and you're asking yourself, okay, is it because we don't have schools nearby, or we need to see how we can structure our education to ensure that children actually access schools in a safe way? But even if when they reach schools, are our children learning? Mm-hmm. That's another matter that I think even that was brought here. So you want to put these budget numbers, and I think some of our colleagues are saying it's not about these numbers, but what kind of picture is the budget giving us? Okay.
All right. Fred Muhumuza, an economist, is also joining us to give us perspective on the policy analysis, of course, fiscal policy, public finance, and development economics. There's also the element of taxation, debt sustainability, and the macroeconomic stability of a country. So, Fred, as you give us your salutations from the morning, the theme being safeguarding lives, livelihood, and institutions for the alternative budget that was presented, which ones did they really truly tick off of the three?
Well, maybe they need all the three. In Africa, we cook on a 3-stone system. You don't want to avoid all of them. And in a way, both government and the opposition are speaking to the same things, but it's a question of how do you align them? Which stone and where do you put the stone? What kind of fire, what are you cooking? And the way you set up, we grew up lighting the fire. Eventually, you put the big logs that will cook the beans, but you don't light the fire starting with the big logs. So I think that's why the priority comes in and the strategy. What should I do first? This country already has an experience of community agricultural investment projects, infrastructure projects, what we call KAIP. We bought a lot of maize hullers, rice hullers, milk coolers. We invested them across the country because people said, oh, prosperity for all, output is going to increase. All of a sudden, there will be a lot to process. So we invested in processing capacity. Almost 20 years down the road, most of those things are still idle. So did we overassume? Did we invest wrongly? The roads we have invested in, and this country really has put money into roads over the last 2-3 decades. Even before, since Museveni came in, I remember as a young boy, I used to take 2 days from Bushenyi to Kampala on a truck bringing matoke. The roads were that bad. So we have over the last 4 decades been putting money into roads. But when I look at the Ministry of Works information, between 2015 and 2025, our road infrastructure was about 37 trillion worth in stock, but that has deteriorated to about 26. So we have lost 10 trillion stock of roads, maintenance. And sometimes about the design that you focus on this road that is going through, highway, UNRA road, but the district road that is coming to feed into that UNRA road is not only bad, but is actually bringing maram because of the rains and pours it on the UNRA road. And UNRA has no maintenance plan. The construction was done. So that road begins to deteriorate because of the water coming in and the soil coming in. So when are we going to get back to what the National Development Plan actually says, integrated road transport system? There's no UNRA road, it's an integrated system. The community road, the district road, and the UNRA road, or national road now, as UNRA is gone, are one and the same. To come here, as Julius has said, that kid you find on that big tarmac KCCA road began in a small community road. Then they walked into the... So how do you resolve those dynamics? People don't live on the tarmac road. And I've seen this even with government officials. People take selfies. Look at the nice roads in Uganda. But people don't live on those roads. If a farmer can't move 2 kilometers off that road, that farmer is not being helped. So how is the budget going to be aligned to speak to the realities on the ground? I think it's the challenge we are still all facing. And until we get there, the numbers won't matter.
Speaking of numbers, just help us address, you know, the government's proposed budget is at 84 trillion shillings. You do have the alternative budget at 71 trillion Ugandan shillings. Just help Ugandans understand that you mean we can save 13 trillion Ugandan shillings and actually, you know, live for a full financial year?
Of course, a budget is a proposal, because we are not even sure the 84 trillion will be found. From experience, we know we never get there. Even when we had a budget of 2 trillion, we ended up with around 62. We don't get there. So accountants, we say discount. So when we say 84, we might spend possibly maybe 71, which these people have put up. So both of them may be speaking the reality of what is going to transpire, because you'll get a donor may not come through. A donor may come through, but say this money is conditional to you finding the other counterpart funding. So ultimately, we need to be factoring in these realities into the planning. Now, we also have some one-off spendings. And some of these, it is a shock that we didn't see them, and this is what I'm saying, the planning. But we've been pushing for it. A Hoima Stadium is not just a stadium. Football has a footprint that goes with it. Now, I am glad in this budget they are putting almost another trillion. Something we should have done then to do what else goes with football. You have to upgrade Hoima Regional Referral Hospital, put more ICUs. Football is emotional. People can crash and crush each other in that stadium because a goal didn't go the right way. Now, where are you going to evacuate them? Now, Kabalega Stadium airport was built, but it had a very small, I think people targeted it for cargo. So the passenger section was so poorly done. At one point I was told it was only could accommodate about 50 people. But now you want football fans to fly there and fly out. So we have now to expand it. And I'm like, we knew AFCON was coming. These are things we should have done alongside construction of the stadium. But well, there we are. You need there's an alternative road they are doing in Nansana. Because, you know, I moved from Hoima to Kampala and I spend 2 hours between Nansana and Kampala itself. By that time, the football is done. Indeed,
you were right. On the road that you don't live on.
Yes, so now they are doing alternative roads, something we should have seen. But even as you enter into Hoima, Masindi, all those areas. So football is a big footprint. Now, these are one-offs, but they are a priority. Now, in budgeting, we say counter-cyclical. If something must go up, there are things we should have left out of this year's budget because there is AFCON spending. Now, once AFCON is settled, you revert back to your normal. But you also maintain some of the infrastructure like in hospitals, which must continue serving the population. These are the things we went through COVID. we didn't draw the lessons.
Speaking of which, Julius, the budget alternative is actually prioritizing similarly what government is also having as priorities: health and education. Those are core to our very existence, and also clearing domestic areas for the alternative budget. Are these the most pressing priorities for us as a country right now? And if they are, how exactly would you, through your lenses, see them being collaboratively addressed rather than dealing with them and facilitating them and empowering them in silo?
I mean, they sort of agree, because if you see human capital development being almost the second budget allocation in terms of the total budget that we have, that education and health, but also emphasis on primary health care, which I think also in the alternative budget is also being addressed. What I think where there is a disagreement right now, and which I also believe in, is that the government has abandoned its suppliers in terms of domestic areas. Because previously, government had put a target of saying in the next 3 years, we will complete paying the domestic areas. And last year they had put 1.4 trillion in terms of covering domestic areas. Now they're only budgeting for 200 billion, and the domestic areas are at 13 plus trillion Ugandan shillings. So it will take government another 50 years. It's not going to be 3 years for them to complete these domestic areas, on condition that actually we don't increase. But again, experience is telling us that on an annual basis, domestic areas have been increasing. So we need to work out and see how do we ensure that we don't commit the government to spend if it doesn't have the money. That's one of the key important areas that they need to buy. The other important element is, I think, where I think we need also to, between the opposition and the government, is around the issue of debt management. And I think for me is that borrowing is not a bad idea. The richest people in this country, the richest countries, all of them have debts. But they are very smart in terms of where they get the loans from, where the debt is coming from, and where they are spending it. And that's why I think we have a problem. Because right now for us is that our debt portfolio, more than 50% of it, around 51% of it, has become domestic. And domestic means that it is very expensive. But concession loan is cheaper. It can even be 0%. You spend it for 40 years. So that one is an area that we need to discuss and address. How can we make our debt affordable so that it does not reduce the fiscal space? Because already you have a 13 to 14 trillion interest payment. Just only that itself tells you how badly we are. Entirely, almost half of the budget is for debt servicing. You can't touch it. So that is an area that we need to discuss, but also an area that we need to ensure that we find the solutions. And lastly, on debt is also where we spend the debt on. Because for domestic debt, it actually is likely to go to budget support. And when in the government you say budget support, that money will end up in the salaries, will end up in paying pension, will end up in paying non-wage and other operations of government. But you want the debt to say, let us invest in this particular project that's going to give us returns. And that's where the issue of public-private partnership comes in, because there are these huge projects that you don't require government to start borrowing money for. You look for a private company, get on the table, agree on terms, build for us.
Which are some of these huge projects that we are currently having?
For example, I'm happy that I'm told that the Kampala Express Highway is going to be on a PPP arrangement. I think that's very good. I would have loved to see these, bridges. If we didn't borrow money for Nairo Bridge, somebody would have done it, and then start collecting money from that particular place. We need to be thinking. If you look at even SGR, if you want to look at solving the traffic problem in this country, all of that you want to borrow money for. Look at if we were to borrow money for ECOP, for example, it would be gone. But government said, no, let's look for a private investor, a private company to come in and say, we are bringing in this amount of money so that we can construct this. So that's how I think we need to begin to think in terms, so that we can be able to reduce fiscal pressure and leave money for, for health, for education, to increase access to water. And I think Fred said something which is very important. These main roads we are building, really, if we cannot get smaller roads to feed into it, and I think last time I was talking about these things, is that even these smaller roads, you find somebody say, we want a tarmac. You don't need a tarmac on these community roads. You need an all-weathered Maram road. That's what you need for a small road. But if you say you want a tarmac on each and every small road in this country, I can tell you we don't have money for that.
No,
yes,
but
we wouldn't need that.
If the ones who want the tarmac on the feeder road have their own money to actually facilitate that tarmac, then why not allow them do that?
Who? We don't have the money. I'm telling you, half of the budget is dead.
You don't have the money, but the Ugandans have them. They can collect their money because, after all, they do much of the taking care of their small roads that feed into the safe roads.
Now you can't do that.
Why that becomes an argument?
That.
Yeah,
we are going to arrest you.
Yes, by policy.
No, the current law says, if you want to complement government, no, it's not a law, it's a bill. If you want to complement the government by building that tarmac without permission, 20 years in jail.
Okay, Fred is going to come in here, but why I bring this is because I'm still using the road perspective. The road that I use, as he called it, the national road or the Union road, it's a tarmac road. But now the roads that feed in, because it's in between two hills, so the roads that bring in to the main road are actually Maram roads. Now, in a rainy season, all the rumble, all the erosion, all the stone is going to get into the main road. And we know that facilitating maintenance of that road is not a priority, for local government and on national level. So that's where it comes in, that if we had considered that even these ones be worked on, then that wouldn't be an issue.
The worked on part is, should we work on them to be Maram or with a very good drainage? Because it's shadow work. We know what shadow work means. Somebody comes and just puts whatever they think. But I think the point is, an all-weathered quality Maram road, small community road, can actually as long as it can transport goods from that small village to the main tarmac. As we make money, then you can come back and say, actually, you can put a tarmac on this small community road. But every politician wanted that small road.
So, Fred, where do you see the leakages when it comes to domestic arrears?
The question of domestic arrears, unfortunately, they are in different baskets. There are those that are caught originating out of courts. Now, those carry penalties. Because court will say, pay so much. If you don't, there is an interest of 10% that is going to accrue. So government seems to prioritize those because they have interest on them. But also because it came out of a court case, there are many interested parties. Me and you, not many people can access court, especially when you are suing either your colleague or government. So those ones kind of carry a higher priority when it comes to settling them. It is these. There is a swearing-in ceremony that is coming in Kololo next month. This one is usually prioritized, but I'm just using it as an example. You provide food, so you have gone to a bank, because every bank will say, surely this is a good deal for you. So you buy your 20 cows, you buy your 2,000 bunches of bananas, you provide them warmers, girls and boys come and work, and all of a sudden you have 2 billion to be paid. Now, when you don't pay that person, that's the same person who's offering services to weddings, funerals. They too are going to lose because this person is going out of that space because of this big deal. But remember, there is also a bank that paid them. I was looking, and this month, by the way, I would encourage Ugandans to take interest. All banks are supposed to publish their audited accounts in the month of April by law. So some have already begun to do that. And when you read through the provisioning for non-performing loans, people who took loans but have not brought it back, the central bank requires you to make a provision. So banks are using their hard-earned money, drawing down their equity. They have to bring in new equity to cover these loans, and some of these loans are government arrears. So it's no longer the person who supplied police or whatever. It is also now beginning to undermine the credibility of the bank's financial credibility. Now, some of these banks, because they do this provisioning, they are going to raise interest rates on me and you, Sarmanya and Armanya, because they have to restore part of what the other guy has not brought. There are people they will not lend because their liquidity is good. So it's a whole chain of events. So when the government took a decision to say in 3 years we resolve these arrears, it was not just the people they owe. It was restarting the entire economic system. And people needed to know when money is not out there by those who use it to deliver, the whole economy begins to suffer. That's why economists like Keynes said, you just give people money. Because when the three of us here receive money, who knows where we're going to turn up? We're going to use that border, we're going to buy some chapati, we'll buy some meat. The system begins to come back, employment will be back, government will tax. So the arrears business is like debt. So government is using both hands. It borrows and then doesn't bring back. It is actually the main killer or slowing down the growth of the economic system. And we need to address the arrears issue as a fundamental ecosystem problem.
Okay, all right. We take a short breather, allow you to digest on that. We'll be joined by a third panelist as we do continue on having a reflection on the proposed government budget and vis-a-vis the alternative budget by the opposition. Do stay with us. The financial year 2026-2027 is before us in a few months. We should be getting into it. But the budget focal points continue to raise eyebrows of experts in the field of finance, economics, and generally the well-being of Ugandans who must contribute to this budget, thereafter benefit from the budget. We're being joined by Dr. Eli Twineo, who is here to help us expand more, especially given the fact that he seems to be giving a thumbs up for the alternative budget for the next financial year that was presented yesterday. And Doctor, good morning to you. You're most welcome to Morning at NTV.
I'm glad to be here. I'm not supporting the alternative budget. I am surprised that this time they were able to put up a good document that I can read.
Okay, talk to us about those surprises specifically.
Last year I looked at their proposals and listened. It was as if they were talking off cuff. It was as if they did not have a document that they were reading from. If you are going to be an opposition, and you know the government is organized, it has economists, it has analysts, it has senior advisors, and you are opposition, and you are telling people that one day you want to take power, then you need to be organized. You need to put a document that your constituencies look at and read. So I am surprised. I saw a 350-page this time, and they had their tagline talking about saving mothers, saving livelihoods, and institutions. It appeals to opposition. I'm not a paid spokesperson for government. I have to make a disclaimer. But I also have to say that I liked also the government budget. Whether there will be money, actual money, to be spent is another issue. But also, when you look at the government proposals, this would be very important to me. When I looked at them, commercial agriculture and agri-industry is what will get most of the bigger population of Uganda into employment and out of poverty. I've always told people that agri-industry, if well organized, including supporting large farmers, you would get more people out of poverty. But there are no jobs in all these places. The government can employ maybe 400, maybe up to 550 civil servants. You are going towards 46, 47, and soon you'll be 50. Who will employ these people? So we need to organize production and productivity, beginning with agri-industry, commercialization of agriculture. Agriculture must be commerce. Because the challenge we have always had subsistence agriculture, that even those who claim that they are commercial farmers, they are transhumant. They are temporary there. They come in, they fall out, they come in, they get out. If agriculture is organized, and I know very well that we have market for agri-industry products, but also we have also We have, every day I see meetings and I see the budget. People always talk about oil and gas. One time I had a discussion more than 3 years ago with Dr. Fred Muhumuza here, who said, I never look at the oil. He said, because there are other things to look at. Do you know, even in minerals and mineral value addition, we need to spend a lot of money. Rare earth elements. Why America cannot go to war with China? Rare earth elements. China has got 44 million, whether metric tons or whatever you call them, but Uganda's estimate is above 530 million. So otherwise, I am proud to say that we are the world's leading owner of rare earth elements and knowing their importance. All those planes going to hit Iran and wherever, and Trump is proud of, is the element called rare earth elements. We have a lot of it. So I want us to make money out of rare earth elements. I want us to make money out of gold. We have estimated gold a lot. Yes? Some people say, I am yet to get the facts, but we are likely to get more than 20 trillion US dollars of the reserve we have of gold. Iron and steel, the whole world, including China still, they still need iron and steel products, and we have good iron ore, both in the west, in the central, in the east. We have a lot of it. We have uranium for security, not for security purposes, for energy purposes. We need to agree with the world that we have good uranium, and we should enrich it for power.
Dr. Eli, all those things are, very humongous to the ears of a mother who's in hospital right now this morning and in need of hospital care, immediate hospital care, but they're telling her that the doctor is not there. Because the doctor has not yet received the money that they have not been paid for quite a number of times. You do have medicine that they should be receiving, but they're telling her medicine is out of stock. Or no, it is still at the national stores. We're waiting for it to come. Blood in hospital. So the rare earth elements are not making sense for the Ugandan today, this morning, as we are looking to safeguarding lives and livelihoods of people. Bringing it back home, you made a statement earlier on and said that we don't have enough money for production, even though you are strong on saying that as a country we should be moving as of yesterday to industrialization and strengthening our agro-industrialization position. Where can we get that money from the proposed budgets you have on the table?
Now, for Uganda to develop the economy, and for other economies that have developed, and the modern way now. And sometimes that's why I get a problem when I hear some people saying investors are wrong. We need to strike a deal. Government needs to strike a deal with credible, available, with money investors that they will work with to develop this economy. Government alone will not afford to put everything. And I'm not discrediting the role of the state, the role of government. I am saying the government will have to play its role, and a big role, facilitate the economy, regulate the economy, create an enabling environment for businesses to thrive, even seek markets for what Uganda produces. But we need a partnership between the private sector, compact partnership between the private sector and government. I am urging the new government coming in after April, May, and June to focus on that compact partnership with the private sector, and also on systems management, on service delivery. Service delivery, money is there, but if money is not reaching those who wants the money, in other words, it might not even be precisely about money. It is systems improvement. We need systems improvement. We need, for example, yesterday the office of the Prime Minister as the head of government business to coordinate all agencies, to to ensure that agencies deliver, to ensure that MDAs in total ministries, departments and agencies deliver what they have agreed that they deliver under National Planning Authority's NDP. What is the, sometimes people they are reporting, when you see, they are reporting the performance when they have not performed. Other people have been given money and that money has not been used. Okay. For the purpose for which they have been given. Don't mind about the little money. Let the little money, let's use it rightly. Okay. And sometimes it is not corruption, Priscilla.
Which is, systems.
Efficiency and effectiveness.
This is something that Julius was also speaking into earlier on. But I think one of the other things that we just need to help Ugandans understand why government is heavily choosing to invest in areas that infrastructure and security being priority for government expenditure. Is this balancing against service delivery that is expected?
No, I think, we used to talk about finding security, and somebody said, you go and grow agriculture in Somalia. by then, it was the instability was too much. Security is important, and nobody should downplay that. It's important, we should invest into it. And I think one of the things we have been discussing is that, yes, we can protect our borders, but also community security is also very important. That my chicken has not been stolen. You see, and I think that's what another person needs to understand, that my chicken has not been stolen. People in urban centers, that you've put your clothes on the hanger, and the moment you go inside the house, they are all gone.
You must be in the window pieces.
Yes, all the time. So that's the kind of situation that we're looking out for. Gender-based violence, violence in homes and children. These are the kind of things we need to see investment in. I liked the police when they put a family protection unit, specifically to deal with those kind of things. We want to see resources going into that, up to the village level. Probation officers are no longer working in the districts. So the balancing of, when we talk about security, I think it's not that we need, guns and boots everywhere, but also personal security inside my home, in my community, but also in my country. But I think the most important part is how much then should we put there? But then how much should come to ensure that there is blood in the health center? How much should come in to ensure that the schools are functioning? Because if you go in a school and the school has no wash facilities, if you go in a school and out of 7 teachers, only 3 are there. So how should we balance that? And I think one of the things we need to do is to be more effective with the little resources that we have. What we have realized is that we have found out that central government tend actually to illegally implement projects that are meant for districts. So you have a project that is covering for 5 districts, but is managed by Minister of Agriculture. The districts are there waiting to get a command on how the project is supposed to work out. And yet, you would expect that if this project is covering 26 districts, then each district must be given its indicative planning figures and they say, do you know what, out of this project, this is your money, plan for it. And that's why actually, despite the challenges of PDM beat everybody in terms of that. Every district knows how much money they're supposed to get and they plan for that. So ensuring that we invest more in local government, my local governments are really suffering, that we invest more in local government because they are at the front line of delivering these services is quite important. What it is talking about production. Production does not take place in Kampala. No. If you want to process to grow cocoa, you have to go to Bundubuju. Period. You can't say I'm going. Yes, you can have a store in Kampala to keep it. Thank you very much. But to plant it and weed it and process, you have to go to Bundubuju. So investing in local government to ensure that they deliver services is quite very important. There is something which I think my friend here is not talking about. He's the chief marketing officer for government of Uganda.
I no longer do that.
And one of the things I learned from him is that how government of Uganda really is incapable of marketing itself. Because one of the things that a government can do is to say, we're a country, we know how to grow potatoes, we know how to grow watermelon, let us take it to the world. And I have said time and again that if these ambassadors of ours continue to conduct wine diplomacy, but not commercial diplomacy, we should recall all of them back here.
All right. This is where I want to bring in Fred. How risky is it to actually expand the budget while domestic arrears remain unresolved, which is something that we had left off having a conversation around?
Well, one of the things we've said, the budget is really not just the numbers. Anybody who has done a budget even for a simple birthday party, wedding, you know, you begin with the right side items. What do we need? Chicken. We need the goat meat. We need the, you know, beers and what. Now, when the budget is not sufficient, you don't go to the numbers. You come back with these items. Say, guys, chicken will only be for Vako. Beer, let's remove that one. Let's get water. Now, we need to get back on this side of the budget. Like Eli has said, you are now increasing the salary of civil servants. They deserve an increment. But they are in their hundreds. So when you move commissioners from 2 million to 12 million times the number of commissioners, you want to go back and say, do I still need those commissioners? Fine, now that I've given this, what support should I give them? Fine, they were poorly paid, so we are giving them a car as a top-up, free airtime and what. Now that they're at 12 million, just like the MD of a certain organization who transports himself, should I not now remove some of these? So that's why you really need to go. It's not a very exciting area, but that's why budgets are not for the beneficiaries to be part of it. There is a conflict of interest. As the English say, turkeys cannot vote for Christmas. They get eaten on Christmas, so they will never allow it. So when we went through the structural adjustment program 30 years ago, it was not by the beneficiaries. You just wake up and say your jobs, the following jobs are out. Because you want to balance your budget. We are not going to borrow ourselves out of debt. And now I hear additional increments in civil servant salaries. You cannot raise payment rates minus revisiting. That's the one way you create some space in the budget to do the basics. He was talking about the thing that reminded her this woman in the waiting for the doctor. Now yesterday I had the case of both the doctor and the patient are stuck. There in Mulago they have done an assessment, but the doctor is like, I need another opinion. Now the Mulago lab has generated results. But the doctor needs another lab, which is not in Mulago, certainly, to give another opinion. And as a doctor, you're dealing with human life. You don't want to make a mistake. He said, before I put you on this long-term treatment, I need another opinion. Now that opinion needs 58,000 in Lucent lab, elsewhere. That's another cost. So how do you begin to match these things? And this one, for me, I come back and say, government is saying we're going to use science to grow this economy. But you need to go back to P1 and P2, where we're being given a picture of a dog and the word dog, you map them. So how do you map your budget? How do you map your science? What investment do we need in the coffee sector today? Is it at value addition? Is it at production? The present guidance is, I want to get to 20 million bags. So we should be investing in production. Now when you come there, 30 years ago again you said helped us, but coffee wilt disease was wiping out coffee. I happened to be a young boy in the Kawanda Research Station. USAID was renovating it. I shared the house with the Kibirige Sebunya, rest in peace. That man was a top-notch scientist on coffee, dealing with the coffee wilt disease. As they called it, massacre. It was wiped out. So now your science should be in research at this point. How do I boost my coffee to 20 million bags? Not add value. That will come later. Not the aroma. Not the aroma. Now I don't know what beans are. No. Irrigation. How do I get drought-resistant coffee? That was the science of the 90s. And that man would sleep in the lab. I would hear him open the door at 1 a.m.
No, he was
I come at 6 a.m. He's gone. Back to his labs, checking on the different things. Alongside him were people in Namulonge dealing with maize. People don't know Ndiwulira. Ndiwulira is now, these scientists knocked out on Ndiwulira.
Yeah, it disappeared right away.
You can't see Ndiwulira, that means Boa. It didn't just abandon Uganda. The scientists slept in the labs to make sure it is out. We had cassava mosaic.
Oh yeah, a team.
Can you imagine Uganda without cassava, without bananas, without
Maize?
Coffee without maize.
We are dead.
These scientists need to be credited. So at this point, I'm like, yes, science is important. But when we are mapping science, at this point, what should we be doing? The biggest crisis in coffee now is not even in the marketing. Productivity. Because the coffee in the gardens, most of it, up to 70%, people tell me, because we don't have all the statistics, is producing less than a ton per acre. Your land for coffee is not going to increase. But Naro has come up with breeds of coffee. If you combine them well, you're able to get 3 to 4 tons per acre. Now that science is sitting in a pot. How do I get that science into the gardens? I'm not only increasing the target of the president, coffee is now over 2 billion, with less than a ton per acre. If I hit 3 to 4 tons an acre, coffee exports will hit 5 billion. But remember, all that income is going to the households. Now, the households begin to have less pressure on government. The security we're talking about is no longer about Somalia. It is this insane person who is mentally derailed, goes and kills toddlers. Now the insecurity has come at home. It is you walking and somebody hits you with an iron bar. You end up in Mulago Hospital. The guy wanted your phone of 40,000. That's the security concern we now have. To deal with that, you got to go into production and productivity. It's an economic problem. I was writing to people there saying Clinton in 1992 said, this is economy stupid. You are not understanding the economic issues. Iran has survived because of its economic infrastructure. So where Uganda itself is now killing its own economic infrastructure, moving on our roads. Kampala to Bundibuju, Kampala to Masaka. These are the things where you need to match your budget.
So the things that you have mentioned on the table are futuristic. Achieving them in the next financial year might be a little bit...
But this is where we need to start.
It is where we need to start.
Yes.
Yes. But until then, maybe you do have other recommendations across the table.
That's why it's unfortunate we haven't started the budget for next financial year, because we're not addressing these things.
These things. All right. For the case of production, Dr. Eli, as we're coming to the crown of this conversation, you said we don't have enough money even for production. How do we trigger that money so that we can then start the wheels of production?
I think there are 3 things. One is a focus on production and productivity, which is a government mindset. I call it a government mindset, that the government must focus on production and productivity. It should be from up there. Then the second one is how much are we investing in production and productivity? And the third one is how much more do we need to do? Freddie has just told you that for coffee you are getting half a ton, or even if you got a ton out of an acre, you are doing the wrong thing. I looked at some document I was working on for production using FAO and other sources since 1980 for selected agricultural products, and including coffee, including cocoa and others, and in dairy. And I found we have a challenge. Yield per acre is too low. How do you increase yield per acre? It is the issue of agronomy. It is the issue of agricultural practices. It is the so we can have extension services, and I want us to have them, but I think we need to as government to refocus on production and productivity, and we should look at our performance, and we should guide the farmers, because, and that is why also I bring in the other angle of we should support large farmers. The president was in the East on the campaign trail and said they're going to support large farmers, and I support it. And I'll tell you why. Because if we had good large farmers who know the agriculture and all the practices and are doing the right thing, fertilizer, mulching, all this, and we produce, and they have outgrowers, agriculture would begin to take shape. Agriculture would begin to be commercialized. And then the Minister of Agriculture can always come in and advise and give extension services. But large farmers sometimes have their own extension services.
Have had to create their own extension services. Julius, I want you to briefly help us speak into where we can have government to deal with corruption and expenditure discipline as they're preparing for the next financial year.
There are two things. Corruption right now has transformed, instead of it's budgeted for into the budget. You don't pick man and run away. You budget for it to go to Parliament. Parliament appropriates it, and then you execute it. How this is done is that you have a small book like this that is costing 1,000 Ugandan shillings, but you put it into the budget and it's going to cost 5,000 Ugandan shillings. And then you're going to buy the books. You've finished, deal done. So what the government needs to fix is to have a price list and a standard. In this country, we should say, this is the kind of vehicle we buy, period, and this is the price we pay. This budget already is bloated. The second thing is enforce discipline. These days, do you know what is happening these days? You go and negotiate with the IG and say, I stole 10 billion, let me give you 5, and don't even prosecute me. That's what is happening. This is sending a very wrong signal that actually you can take government money. There is a risk that you might either be caught, if you are not caught, good. If you are caught, you can actually negotiate your way out. So we need to enforce the discipline and be involved with that.
Okay, all right. And Fred, lastly, what are some of those policies that you feel need to be tightened if we are truly going to be aligning accordingly for the next financial year?
I don't know that it's tightening policies, and here people say Uganda has very good policies. Sometimes I'm like,
then what should we tighten?
Let's throw all these policies out and start with a clean slate. So we shouldn't be tightening them necessarily, because we need to unravel them up and then see how do they blend. Because if you look at all the things we have put money over the last 3 decades, big monies, you still are not getting the results we thought then. Like when we wrote the National Development Plan 1, remember we had PIP. You look at health, education, security, roads, energy, all of them, public administration, you still don't see what we anticipated when we were writing the 2040. And we are just around the corner to hit the 2040. So I'm like, if we've been following these same policies, let's go back, reopen them up, redesign the strategy, like players will say in football, take the ball back, come back with a new strategy. Then we shall be able to get there. Otherwise, I don't want to tighten policies that haven't delivered.
Okay. All right. Dr. Fred Muhumuza, thank you so much. Dr. Eli Twineo, thank you so much. And of course, Julius Mukunda, thank you so much for helping us draw accountability and priorities, perspectives into the next financial year. What has been said on the table is what it is. But of course, the question is, even in the current financial year that we are running right now, how have you benefited? You are the best analyst of benefit for the government's priorities and budgeting. As we close this conversation, just to remind you that you also need to budget for your health, and because it's a critical element. If you don't have health, you don't have wealth. That's just how it is. And therefore, DFCU Bank in partnership with Jubilee Insurance have introduced the DFCU Blue Care. This is a comprehensive health care insurance solution with inpatient and outpatient. It also gives you maternity cover. It gives you funeral benefits. It gives you critical illness cover, and it also comes with telemedicine access and much more, all for 981,000 Ugandan shillings for 12 months. And you can get a cover limit of up to 120 million Ugandan shillings to protect your health, your income, as well as your future. So you can reach out to the DFCU team on 0800 222 000 and be able to sign up for the DFCU Blue Care